Hey everyone, hi, welcome back to my channel. Today I am going to be going through a haul with you and an unhaul. I'm not exactly sure where to start. This is definitely my biggest haul of the year and I'm hauling books. I should probably say that. Although if you saw the thumbnail and all of that, you probably already know. Wow, we're already starting off at an awkward beginning. So if you're new to my channel, then hi, I'm Shelly. I really love books and reading, and I have an epic book haul, meaning that I bought a lot of books or I've acquired a lot of books. Some of them are not my fault, y'all, okay? But also, with books coming in, I've decided to let some books go. Also for other reasons, we'll get into that in the meat of the video. And yeah, without any further rambling on, let's go ahead and get into the meat of this video. A tiny bit of context about my unhaul. So I came to a point in my reading this week where I was feeling a little stalled in that I didn't actually know what I wanted to pick up next, and I started to almost feel exhausted by making that decision. Like to actually do the thing where I'm actually mood reading. So as I was trying to get myself excited about reading, excited about picking something up, I was thinking about different ways to get those juices flowing essentially, or to get myself excited about a book. And what I decided to do was to actually take away some books in my collection that I don't want to see there anymore. For one reason or another, they're almost mucking up the gems that I do have in my own collection. A couple of books I have read and I was planning on unhauling anyways. And so here's, in that project of trying to get my excitement back with reading, it only lasted a day or two, and I did some writing about it. And I came up with all these little solutions. So in those solutions was an unhaul. And of the books that I've already read that I'm getting rid of are The Prime of Miss Jean Brodie by Muriel Spark. I think I would really enjoy the movie, especially after having read the book, to see a different interpretation on it. I also am getting rid of The True History of the Kelly Gang by Peter Carey. It's a hard one to get rid of because this hardcover is absolutely stunning. There's something really beautiful about this hardcover. Both reads were disappointing in their own ways. I've talked about them on my channel. Now I'm going to be getting rid of books that I have specific reasons for why I'm getting rid of them. One of which is Janet Finch's White Oleander, which I actually picked up a different copy. It's a oversized paperback rather than a mass market paperback. I like reading from oversized paperbacks more, or like full-size paperback, and not these little short stubby ones. So I'm going to get rid of this copy. I actually am going to get rid of The Glass Hotel by Emily St. John Mandel. The book I really want to read from her is Station 11. I don't want to read. I mean, if I really love her, I'll rebuy this book, but I bought this for $1 at a library book sale. And so it's kind of like easy come, easy go. So saying goodbye to this, because every time I see this, it reminds me that I want to read Station 11. And that's what this is there for, rather than me actually wanting to read this book. I actually started The Shadow of the Wind by Carlos Ruiz Zafron, and I could not get into it. It was also during a weird part in my reading, but I did read I read like 125 pages, and I was not enjoying my time. So instead of it going back on my shelves and me having that feeling where it's like, oh yeah, I remember meeting you on the page and not really enjoying my time, but maybe one day my feelings will change. I don't want to see it there anymore. And so I'm going to DNF this, or DNF and get rid of this instead of it just sort of lingering out in my psyche, haunting my bookish brain. Then I'm going to get rid of, for a little while, a very short period, I was buying all of the Elizabeth George books that I could find. And again, all of these are library book sale books. I bought them for less than $1, very much easy come, easy go kind of thing. And so what I decided to do with both of these are to unhaul them, because I've realized that I like to read Elizabeth George on my Kindle, or I like to listen to her mystery books. And these books are far down the line. She writes this Inspector Lindley series. She's got like 25, maybe 30 books in this series. And this is like on the latter end of the series, more present day books. You know, these are more current. So I'm on book 10, which I think was written in 2000 or something, 1999, for the Elizabeth George. And so I know, like, this is way down the line. This is like book 18, and this is like book 22, something like that. So I'm going to get rid of these because I would much rather read them on my Kindle, and that way they're not mucking up my shelves. I also have a couple of classics that I've just decided I don't really want to read. I think I bought them when I was in this mindset where if I read classics, I am a smart reader. And now I want to read classics because I think that they're going to tell a fantastic story and I'm actually interested in reading them. And so here's one. It is Things Fall Apart by Chinua Achebe. I know that there are people who love this book, but again, I bought this book with the mindset of course it's a classic. I want to read it, but now I'm a little bit pickier, a little bit pickier with my classics, because just because it's old doesn't mean it's good. All right, I also have A Portrait of an Artist as a Young Man by James Joyce. I have so many other Irish authors that I want to read that are not James Joyce. So I'm saying goodbye to this. I also have a misread book. Now, I was gifted this, and I know that the person who gifted me this will not mind me unhauling, because ultimately booktube gifts, we all know that like your reading taste changes and develops, and so long as that this book gets into the hands of someone who wants to read it, it's all good with usually the giver and me unhauling it. I have a couple of memoirs to get rid of. First one is This Wheel of Rocks, and This Wheel of Rocks is by Sister Marna Grathwohl and Rebecca Solnit's Recollections of My Non-Existence. I think at one point I would have really liked reading Rebecca Solnit, and over the years, and as I've defined my taste more, I've realized that this is not exactly what I want to read. And again, all of these are, a vast majority of these books I've bought for $1 or $2 at library book sales, and I'm just ready to say goodbye. And honestly, it felt really good. The moment I chose these books, let me put these on the ground. The moment I chose those books to get rid of, I felt like lighter and brighter, and I could really see the forest for the trees in that I was looking at my collection and just reveling in all of the glory of these unread books, of the ones that I have here that I'm excited to get to. Okay, now let's get to books that were gifted to me. I have a delightful friend who sends me books periodically, and she sent me 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 books. Yes, 8 books recently. The first one being The Wedding People by Alison Espach. This is about Phoebe Stone, who arrives at the Cromwell Inn, and she's all decked out. I think she's just had a breakup, if I'm not mistaken. Anyways, she's at this hotel, and at this hotel there's a wedding going on, and basically she gets mistaken as one of the guests from the wedding, and among the snafu, adventure ensues. And it is said to be absurdly funny and devastatingly tender. So I really love the cover of this book, and this is a 2024 release. So brand new book. Really, really cool to have. The premise sounds fantastic. It sounds like a Sandra Bullock movie. The next book is Briefly a Delicious Life. I feel like, by Nell Stevens, I feel like Jennifer Brooks read this book and liked it, but I cannot remember exactly. I'd have to go back to her catalog. But the premise sounds incredible. Also, talk about beautiful covers. Is this not just Wow, this is a beautiful cover. I used to do book cover recreations on my channel, and I would love to do this one because it's just so gorgeous. So it says, Bianca falls in love with George Sand the moment that she first sets eyes on her, kissing Frederick Chopin in the garden of an abandoned monastery. It's the winter of 1838, and Blanca has been haunting the village of Valdemosa since her untimely death hundreds of years earlier, and in all that time, she's never seen anyone like George, the striking woman in a man's clothing. I'm going to stop and not get derailed by that. The other villagers, however, are more alarmed than enchanted, and they soon become suspicious of George's dress. So a woman dressing like a man in 1838, and someone who is otherworldly taking notice of this person. So that sounds good. I'm like thumping things on the ground. Next up is the women's long-listed book. It was long-listed in 2023, Black Butterflies by Patricia Morris. And actually, again, beautiful cover. I really like the colors of this. So in this book, we're in Sarajevo in 1992. Gangs are erecting barricades all around the city and making ethnic enclaves every morning. So when violence finally spills over, Zora, an artist and a teacher, sends her family to safety in England while she remains. As the city falls under siege, Zora and her friends are forced to rebuild themselves over and over again. So I remember this being well liked during the Women's Prize, but it was only longlisted. I don't believe it got shortlisted. Another beautiful book, and it's going to be Mrs. England by Stacey Halls. This actually won the Women's Prize for Fiction Futures Award with Good Housekeeping. I think I don't really know, but it has like a little Women's Prize emblem printed on the corner here. But this is another historical fiction book. It is 1904. We're in West Yorkshire in 1904. Miss Ruby May, a nurse, takes a position looking after the children of Charles and Lillian England, who are a powerful, wealthy couple. And as she gets to this place called Hardcastle House, it's an isolated place, it becomes clear that something's not quite right with the beautiful and mysterious Mrs. England. So, sounds fantastic. Something a bit more contemporary, set during contemporary times, is Love After Love by Ingrid Prusad. This is impressional Betty Romden, her Sai Shun solo, and their marvelous lodger, Mr. Chetham, form an unconventional household. Ooh, found family vibes. Happy in their differences, they build a home together. Home, a place keeping all three safe from an incredibly dangerous world until the night when a glass of rum, a heart-to-heart, and a terrible truth explodes the family unit, driving them apart. Wow, all right, interesting. And it's blurbed by Richard Osman and Marlon James, Rachel Joyce. All right, and I had read the first page of this, and it's very fast-paced. It just gets right. It cuts to the chase. It doesn't beat around the bush, and we're like immediately enveloped in a very exciting story. Ooh, a book from an author that I've read from very recently, and it is A Letter to the Sky by John Boyne. I just read The Heart's Invisible Furies by John Boyne, and I loved it. I loved that book. Probably one of my top 10 books of the year. So this is Maurice Swift is handsome, charming, and hungry for fame. The one thing he's missing is talent, but a would-be writer can find or steal stories from anywhere, roving from the coast to the Amalfi Coast to Manhattan to London. He preys on the talented and vulnerable in a cold-blooded climb to the top. Wow, okay, but I know that I've really enjoyed John Boyne's writing in terms of his fiction writing. At least with The Heart's Invisible Furies, he was a lot funnier than I had anticipated. Then I also have the Nobel Prize winner, Annie Ernaux. This is The Years, and I think this is a memoir. I remember reading the beginning of this as well, and she does this thing where she's like slowly observing everything in the room. So this is how it starts. It's a sepia photo, oval-shaped, glued inside a little cardboard folder with a gold border and protected by a sheet of embossed semi-transparent paper. Below are the words photo moderne. A fat baby with a full pouty lower lip and brown hair pulled into a big curl sits half naked on a cushion in the middle of a curved table. So she's describing this photograph as a way to kind of help you enter the room. And then she does this thing where she like turns her writing camera to another photo and describes that. And then another 2 small photos. So she's really kind of setting the scene in this sort of dreamy way, which I'm not surprised by, but I'm not surprised by, and I'm glad to have the book. And then finally, in the gifted books, we have The Storm We Made by Vanessa Chan. And this is set Malaya, 1945. Cicely's family is in terrible danger. Her 15-year-old son, Abel, has disappeared, and her younger daughter, Jasmine, hides in the basement to avoid being pressed into service at the comfort stations. Her oldest daughter, Jujubee, who serves tea to drunk soldiers, becomes angrier by the day. Cicely knows 2 things, that this is all her fault, and her family must never learn the truth. Ooh, tensions rise. Tensions rise. And it's supposed to be a sweeping World War II book. My last 2 books I will leave as like the pièce de résistance, the best books, the best finds that I found during my shopping adventures. So in terms of the library book sale, they had it this past weekend. They had it today actually. And so I went and I picked up a handful of books, and shockingly they were $1 each. So I know that Alan Hollinghurst is an author I want to read. I've heard amazing things about his writing. This is the Spars-Holt affair, and I forget what this is about. In 1940, David Spars-Holt arrives at Oxford to study engineering. Though his sights are set on joining the Royal Air Force, handsome, athletic, charismatic, he is unaware of his powerful effect on others, especially on Everett Dax, the lonely and romantic son of a celebrated novelist who is destined to become a writer himself. With the world at war and the Blitz raging in London, Oxford exists at a strange remove, a place of fleeting beauty, of secret liaisons. Under the cover of blackouts, a friendship develops between David and Everett that will influence their lives for decades to come. Now, I want to read The Line of Beauty, which I own on my Kindle, and now this is my second Hollinghurst book, and I'm so excited to dig into his work more. Speaking of someone that I don't know how I feel about her, but it's one of those things where I feel like I'm missing out on my opinion of her, because so many people have opinions of her, and there are... Excuse me, I'm about to choke on my own spit. That's awful. There are so many people who have just so much to say about this author, and I like to have an opinion about things that are wildly popular. So the person I'm talking about is Ottessa Moshfegh, and I have the book Eileen, who I think it's Karla reads, one of the channels that I follow. I'm gonna leave her down. But I'm gonna look it up now. I think my kids are watching old home videos, which is sweet. Karla likes to read. So Karla likes to read. Recently read Eileen by Ottessa Moshfegh. And she had such good things to say about it. She was so delighted by its like icky, weird grossness that I was intrigued, okay? I have never wanted to read an Ottessa Moshfegh, and I definitely know the one, like I don't want to read Latvana. There's a lot of Ottessa I don't want to read, but, or Ottessa, oh my gosh, it's like a word salad in your mouth. Anyway, so there's a lot of Ottessa I don't want to read, but I was like, I might want to read Eileen. It's pretty short, and I'm like, it might be one of those things where I'm like, read it or unhaul it type of challenge. Then I can finally have an opinion of Ottessa. Just like I wanted to have an opinion about Akotar. And so I put myself through that misery and came out on the other side with a very strong opinion. A book by an author I have not read before, and it's kind of surprising considering the reader that I am and the accolades this writer gets. And that is Jonathan Safran Foer. This is I Am Here. It's a discarded library copy, so I'm thinking about taking off the plastic of this book so that it looks less like a discarded library copy. Okay, I bought this because this was one of Steve Donahue's best books in 2016. It's a behemoth of a thing. Well, actually, it's actually not that bad. It's only 571 pages. It just looks chunky monkey, but it's really not that chunky. And this is what it says. In the book of Genesis, when God calls out Abraham before ordering him to sacrifice his son Isaac, Abraham responds, "Here I am." Later, when Isaac calls out, "My father," before asking him why there is no animal to slaughter, Abraham responds, "Here I am." How do we fulfill our conflicting duties as father, husband, and son, wife and mother, child and adult, Jew and American? How can we claim our own identities when our likes are linked so closely to others? These are the questions at the heart of Jonathan Safran Foer's first novel in 11 years, a work of an extraordinary scope and heartbreaking intimacy. Oh my gosh, that sounds so good. Okay, I'm so glad I picked that up. Since we're on the Steve Donahue train, we're gonna continue with that. And same year, 2016, he said that The Lesser Bohemians by EMR McBride was one of the best books of that year. So I was like, well, why not? Her debut novel, EMR McBride, most people have read her debut novel, which is a half-form thing. The Lesser Bohemians is about an 18-year-old Irish girl who arrives in London to study theater and is instantly enthralled with the energy of the city. I mean, who wouldn't be? The lights of the stage and the potential romance that each new encounter holds. Her life is a blur of classes and nights out drinking with friends. One evening at the pub, she meets an older man, a well-known actor whose age and theater fame put him seemingly beyond her reach. But surprisingly, what begins as an innocent flirtation quickly develops into an intense and headlong romance. Wow, I'm all about a good romance. Anyways, I also quite like this book cover. If you can see it, I quite like that. All right, and then my last book from the library is Devil in the White City, which is by Erik Larson. I've not read any Erik Larson, but what got me was when I was doing all of my research about the New York Times Best 100 Books of the 21st Century, this book was on the list, and I think on the reader's list, and on my list, like BookTube's list. People love this book. Now, it might not bode well for me because sometimes I don't like super, super popular books, but it's about a serial killer in the 1890s. Yes. Does that not just kind of get you intrigued? Now, I'm not really a true crime girly, but I was like, I think it's so far removed from the present day that I might actually quite enjoy this book. Okay, moving forward. We're ending with the Pièce de Résistance. So while my parents were here visiting, I actually picked up a couple of books. The first being Cold Mountain by Charles Frasier. This has been recommended to me so many times, mostly by my friend Dia, who thinks that I will really, really enjoy it. And I just know that it's a very well-loved book. So again, me and popular books, sometimes I can be kind of allergic to popular books, but it's okay. I have faith that I will like this. It's a love story set during the Civil War, I think. Yes, because Confederate soldier, and it's just supposed to be fantastic. Then we also have All the Light We Cannot See by Anthony Doerr. Now, I have been meaning to read this for ages, and I know that Alice of the channel Alice in the Giant Bookshelf really liked Cloud Cuckoo Land, but I was like, I want some Anthony Doerr in my life, you know? I feel like I'm missing out on others. What is happening? What is Harry barking at? Anyways, it's a World War II story. It's supposed to be fantastic. Pulitzer Prize winning book. Seemed fantastic. And then I was so surprised to see this book. Although this is like the preview or like the runner-up to the Pièce de Résistance. Isn't it funny how I like label my books this way? I'm like, who? Girl, really? Anyways, and it's Schmutz by Felicia Berliner. This was also a Steve Donahue recommended pick. It's a debut work, and what got me is that it's about a girl who's in young woman, in a very strict living in a very strict Jewish family who may or may not have gotten addicted to graphic images on the interwebs. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. So I don't know. He said it was like genuinely funny. Yeah, ultra Orthodox Brooklyn community. So ever since I found out about this, I was like, that sounds like a book I would really like, especially if it has a really funny angle to it. So there's that, and I found it like in person, and I was like, I have to get it. And then the final book, which is kind of a weird, choice, but I was like, what? It was on the free cart at my library, and I was like, I cannot pass this up, because I was literally watching Steve Donahue talk about it like that morning. And it is Dear and Glorious Physician by Taylor Caldwell. This is a historical fiction book, and it is about like Luke, the book of Luke. I mean, the main character is Luke in the Bible, Luke. And this person, it has a little inscription in it, which I always love, by the way. Okay, it says Christmas 1959 with love to Beatrice from Ethel. And what was funny is that there was a bunch of Taylor Caldwell books for free on that cart. And what I really liked about it is that the owner of this book checked off the books that she had. Now, I don't know how much Taylor Caldwell I'm going to love, but Steve put this in his like essentials of historical fiction, and I was like, I must own it. I must own it. It does not have a cover on it, but maybe I'll make a book cover myself and just stick it on here so that I feel like it's not just standing there naked, that kind of thing. And really, that was the Persiste Resistance. I also, just as like a little bonus, this is not like an amazing find or anything, but I have a Calvin and Hobbes book. This is a homicidal psycho jungle cat. Oh my gosh, that was rough. Okay, I love Calvin and Hobbes. I love Calvin and Hobbes with an intense passion. I could probably make a whole video about my relationship with Calvin and Hobbes and Bill Watterson in general. I love it so much. But this is one of the few books that I don't have from him. And I like this floppy format. And actually my kids, my older son practices reading on these comic strips, and it's a great deal of fun. So that's it. What have you bought recently? What should I prioritize? Let a girl know. I want to know. Give me all the tea. Spill. What should I prioritize? What have you read? Did I get any great finds here? Let me know. I want to know all the stuff. But that's it for me. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for spending this time with me. And I will see you all in my next one. Bye!